Hello everyone, it's so good to see you again. Welcome back. We are making a chickpea lemon cream skillet today that we're going to serve over mashed potatoes. Super pantry friendly, fast, easy. You can use chickpeas, that's what we like in it. You could use chicken if you wanted to, but we're going to go with chickpeas, canned chickpeas today. Although if you want to make this an even more budget-friendly meal, you can use dried chickpeas, and those you soak overnight and use those instead. It's an even less expensive way to make this dish. So all the ingredients are out. I've got the chickpeas, diced onion, minced garlic, ahi, as you all know, my penchant for using that to cook with, olive oil, cream, butter, fresh lemon, broth, salt, and pepper. So yeah, let's get going. First thing we do is we mix the broth and the lemon juice and the garlic and the ahi in a small bowl. If you have bottled lemon juice, that's fine. If you've got fresh lemon, that's fine too. You can grate a little bit of the skin off, a little bit of the rind, preferably before you cut it. That tends to make things a little easier. You can do that if you want this to be super lemony. So just, you know, a little bit of lemon rind in there, just to show you. My easy way to juice a lemon is to do it over my hand, because that catches all the seeds, but it gives you the juice runs through your fingers, which is a nice way. Makes your hands smell great too, let me tell you. It catches all the seeds, and you just get that delicious fresh lemon juice into your dish. Something else I forgot to mention. This one's really ripe, so it's juicing super easy. But see, there's all the seeds right in my hand. Before you actually juice the lemon, before you cut it, let's see if we can do this like a puzzle. When you get the whole lemon, roll it, press down hard and roll it over a surface. That will break up the membranes inside it and make it really juicy, a lot easier to use. So, keep my hands quick rinse. And we've got the juice in there, we've got the broth. Now we're going to add the chopped garlic, and then we're going to put in a tablespoon of ahi. So, and that goes in there too. So we're going to mix that all up, and then we're going to go over to the frying pan, and we're going to saute. Now I like to use a frying pan for this because it gives you much more surface area, which makes the broth evaporate more quickly, making this an even faster dish. So take our olive oil and our onions over to the stove, and a little bit of olive oil, and in go the onions. Now we're just going to saute these until they turn translucent, which means you'll be able to see through them. Right now they're opaque. It's a fancy word for meaning you can't see through them. So we'll let those sit. Don't necessarily want them to start to brown, although it's not a bad thing if they do. So we'll give those a couple of minutes. While we're waiting for that, I think my potatoes should be done. I got those started beforehand because the last thing I want to do is watch me boil potatoes. So, for mashed potatoes, I'm assuming you know how to do those, but I just want to give you a bit of advice. Yukon Gold potatoes are good for that. Russet potatoes, what you want is a really dry potato. Anything that's waxy will give you a gummy mash, which is just nasty. So, cut them up fairly small, boil them in salted water. My trick for these is once I've cut them up, I put them in my pot. I put water all over them, swish them around a little bit to rinse off some of the excess starch, fill it with fresh water, salt, and then we boil them. So now we're going to drain them. I need other little trick I like to show for making really nice, light, fluffy mashed potatoes is stick them back on the heat for a little bit. Shake them around a little bit. This dries them out. So, look at this. The onions are sauteing nicely. Almost ready. Give our potatoes a little rattle. This, as I said, dries them out, gets rid of any excess moisture. I know it seems kind of counterproductive since you're going to add moisture to them, but you don't want water, you want flavor. So, okay, there's our onions. You can see they're all starting to be nice and translucent. I cut them up really fine. Next thing we're going to add now is the broth. Because we want this to reduce. And by reducing it, it makes a thicker sauce and it concentrates the flavor. And then we're going to add the chickpeas. So, because this will heat them up. The chickpeas are already cooked, but this will heat them through, and we're going to start to reduce the sauce. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit because we want it to simmer so that it evaporates. We're going to let that go. Potatoes, I think, are good. So we're going to take those off the heat. Backing up to the chickpeas for a moment, did you know that the liquid that the chickpeas are canned in, although it's simply water, I guess it mixes with the chickpea when they cook them and process them, and it makes a liquid called aquafaba. And that is something you can actually whip and beat into a meringue, so you can have vegan meringues or vegan egg whites. So, you know, if that's something that you want to have, then when you drain your chickpeas, don't throw out the liquid. Okay, I'll let those simmer. Now I'm going to take these back over here and do them on the cutting board just so it's... We're going to add tiny little, well, not a tiny little bit, good wad of butter. And cream. I am a firm believer in butter and cream in my mashed potatoes. I mean, yes, you can do them with milk, but you know, mashed potatoes should have lots of delicious fat. They're creamy, they're richer, they taste better that way. So, there we go. I've got this great masher, almost like a spring. So, you can always add more liquid depending on how creamy, how soft you want your potatoes. You can process them so that they've got a lot of lumps or a little lumps. You can peel the potatoes, not peel the potatoes. You can add mashed, cooked, roasted garlic to these. You can put in a little bit of cheese. I can tell you, ahi mashed potatoes are delicious. If you just, instead of using milk, you use sour cream and mash in a little bit of ahi. Oh my goodness. Takes a whole new level. So there's our mashed potatoes. We're going to taste them and adjust because they need salt and pepper. So good. A little bit of pepper, a little bit more salt. I tend to over-salt everything, but that's my palate. So there's your potatoes, all nicely mashed up and whipped up. Look at those, yum. I'm gonna put them back on the stove. Now we've got our chickpeas simmering away. This will take a couple of minutes because we want to reduce it, but you can see why I was saying it's a big surface like this means there's more surface to evaporate, so it'll cook off a lot faster. So you can certainly do it in a saucepan, you can do it in a smaller frying pan. It just depends on how much time you want to spend with it. So getting ready, simmering away nicely. It's going to concentrate the flavor, cook the onions and the garlic. We use a lot of chickpeas in this house. I put them in butter chicken sauce, mash them up for hummus, throw them in soups. They're a really great vegetarian option, to say nothing of the fact that they're so inexpensive. I'm pretty sure they're also grown in Canada. Canada's a huge supplier of what's called pulses to the international market. They're all grown on the prairies. Pulses are things like chickpeas and lentils and beans, kidney beans, things like that. So you can see this is starting to thicken. It's reducing nicely. Not nearly as much liquid in there as there was. Almost ready. Almost ready. And just keep stirring that around a little bit. Concentrating the flavor. I used vegetable broth for this one because I'm going to feed this to my daughter who is vegetarian. Chicken broth works very well if you like. So close. Can you hear that sizzle? Yum. Okay, almost ready now. Last thing we do is stir in the butter and then the cream. We want to turn the heat down though, especially before we add the cream, because we do not want it to curdle. So I think we're pretty much done here. Butter will make it really nice and rich. Butter or margarine works very well. I'm going to turn this down, almost there, way down. Add the butter. Whisk that in, stir it around. Melting nicely. Cooling it off a little bit so we can add the cream. And last but not least, a little bit of cream, quarter cup of cream or so. Stir that in to combine. And then we're going to taste it just to adjust the seasoning. You always salt, adjust as you go. So let's see. I think it's perfect, which is saying a lot because I have to put salt in everything. So there you go. Now you want to plate that. I'm just going to plate a teeny tiny little bit so that you can see it. Oh, say hello to Remy. Yes, she's in the kitchen looking for something to eat. A little bit of mashed potatoes. And some delicious chickpeas. I know it looks really sad because I'm only doing a tiny bit. Okay. Finish it with a wee little bit of fresh parsley or maybe a sprinkle of thyme. Let's see, what have I got here? I have some thyme. I have lots of thyme. Ha ha ha. Bad cooking joke, I'm sorry. And a little bit of thyme on the top. Give it a nice little. And there you go, my friends. Look at that. How delicious does that look? Enjoy, and let me know what you think. Take care.